Now on Toledo News This Morning, Wakanda Forever. This morning, I'm joined by child actor Divine Love Kanadu's son, who starred in the highly anticipated Black Panther, Wakanda Forever. Plus, following the death of Tyree Nichols at the hands of law enforcement, I'm joined by a Memphis, Tennessee councilman. And on the court, I'm chatting with one standout on Maumee Valley Country Day School's basketball roster. It's Saturday, February 4th, 2023. Good Saturday morning, I'm Jaden Jefferson, and thanks so much for starting your weekend with Toledo News This Morning. As always, we start with a check of your forecast. How about a double whammy for your forecast? Today you can expect a high and low in the lower 30s. So my best advice is don't do what I'm doing and stay inside. The beating death of 29-year-old Tyree Nichols at the hands of Memphis Police Department officers back in early January has been both a heartbreaking and angering story for many. And this morning, I'm joined by Memphis City Councilman J.B. Smiley.
I think my initial reaction watching, there was 4 different clips of the body cam footage, was the first appall, but then ultimately there's a sense of sorrow that took over, because what's different than a lot of the video footage we watched, we already knew the outcome. We already knew that Mr. Nichols was not going to make it home. He was not going to have an opportunity to see his mother. And I think one of the most heart-wrenching parts of the video was from the Skycop cam. It's video number 4, when officer saw Mr. Nichols on the ground being restrained, looked at a young man who looked just like him that could potentially be his brother, and took a couple of steps back and walked toward him and kicked him in the skull. It's tough.
What system allowed these officers to slip through the cracks? Because it seems that they were very comfortable in their actions.
Well, it's not just necessarily being very comfortable in their actions. It's a lack of oversight, because what has transpired and what has come out in recent days is the majority of these officers had, trouble past as it relates to police brutality before. There was one officer who failed to file a report after using physical force, and another officer as well. I think it's the culture itself, a culture that allows officers to act as if excessive force is commonplace. It's a culture that allows officers to act as if there is no oversight. And I think we have to do a better job of that. And we have to hold not just the officers on the ground accountable, but leadership that has allowed them to move this way. And we have to do a better job.
And how does a community like Memphis move forward from something like this? Because I'm sure in your community right now, there is still a lot of heartbreak as well as concern.
Well, today, I think 30 minutes ago, I just left Mr. Nichols' funeral. And if you could just be in the moment or in the room and just feel, there was a sense of some peace, there was a sense of sorrow, but also there was a sense of urgency in the room, an urgency to create change. And I think how Memphis moves forward, I think there's several different steps that have to take place. There are only 5 officers charged. The problem with that is there are multiple people on the scene. There's multiple people that have yet to be terminated, yet to be fired. There's multiple people that yet to be charged. But ultimately, after the terminations, after the firings, there has to be convictions. So the jury has a job to do as well. But in addition to that, I think the Memphis City Council has a responsibility or a moral obligation to bring about change. Right now, we have activism coupled with community that is paying attention to how we move forward. I think this is prime time for Memphis to set the standard on how to respond to police misconduct, and we can do so by passing comprehensive legislation to address these issues.
What reforms can you and other city officials promise residents after this incident?
Well, it's not about promising, because promises are often not kept. It's about what we will do and what I will do. At the next city council meeting, which will be February the 7th, I'll be proposing a transparency ordinance, which requires the police department to present certain information to the council members and to the public about excessive force complaints and how they are handled, about misuse of body-worn cameras and how they are handled, and give a very detailed description of how many complaints a particular officers receive. and how they reviewed those processes, because it's important for the people to know what's transpiring when they make complaints of excessive force. So there will never be another Tyree Nichols. But in addition to that, there will be an ordinance that I will offer regarding body cam footage. Right now, the police operate as if there is no independent review. After February 7th, if the council agrees with me, we will have an ordinance regarding body cam footage when they're required to turn it over to the Memphis City Council, and we can do an independent review. But in addition to that, there is something in most cities called, or similar to what we have, is called Civilian Law Enforcement Review Board, where civilians have an opportunity to propose certain recommendations to the police department. But they usually do not have what we say teeth, no ability to enforce some of their recommendations. What I will propose will require the Memphis Police Department to tell the Memphis City Council going forward how they handled those recommendations that they choose to adopt. But if they did not adopt, give a very detailed explanation on why they chose not to adopt those recommendations. And then the City Council will have the ability to go back, take it into consideration, decide whether or not we're going to directly intervene. And I think having that additional oversight will cause, or will require, officers to act as if Big Brother's watching, and we will be watching.
Well, I know myself and many others will be watching to see what happens and what changes in light of this incident. And Councilman J.D. Smiley, thank you so much for taking the time to talk about this.
Thank you.
Black Panther: Wakanda Forever was one of the most highly anticipated films of 2022. And this morning, I am joined by one of the young stars who in that film made his acting debut. Take a look. Well, would you first be able to give me an idea of what this experience was like for you? Because I don't know many people that have starred in big budget films like you have.
Oh, it was fun. I was a little bit nervous, I was very nervous, but it was mostly fun.
For sure. And what was it like when you first got the news that you would be a part of the film? Because I'm sure for you, that was pretty exciting.
Yes, it was. So it was very exciting. It was definitely a dream come true, because when I watched Black Panther, I would say that I would be in Black Panther Part 2, and that I would be T'Challa's son, and it happened.
And do you see yourself starring in any films in the future, or do you have an idea of what you want to do next?
Well, I do want to do other movies, and maybe like comedy or action comedy movies.
So you consider yourself more of an action star. You kind of like to do things that are more out there.
Yes.
And did you ever think that you would be able to do this role? Because I know a lot of people that have those dreams, it's kind of something for them that they feel maybe they can do, but did you always think that you would be able to do this?
Yes, definitely.
What is some advice that you would like to give to other young actors? Because you're so young and you already have a role like this. So what advice would you give other people your age?
Well, to just be themselves, and that even if you're young, then you can do great things.
Well, Divine, thank you so much for your time. I appreciate it.
Thank you.
CJ Majors is a standout on Maumee Valley Country Day School's boys varsity basketball team. And this week, I had a chance to speak with the junior about what his future may hold. Christian Majors.
CHRISTIAN, Majors, MAJORS.
Is a junior on Maumee Valley Country Day School's boys varsity basketball team.
I play point guard, shooting guard, so combo guard, kind of.
Majors is so good at playing those positions, in fact, that he got the attention of this reporter, who knows little to nothing about sports. Here's what he was able to accomplish even as a freshman.
I averaged 10 points a game, so for a varsity freshman, that's a big accomplishment because most freshmen don't play varsity.
But before we get to all the wonderful things Major's coach and friends had to say about him, how did he even get into basketball in the first place? How did you first get exposed to basketball?
Well, when I was 7 years old, I told my mom that I wanted to play basketball. So when she got the news, she told my dad. So then my dad put me in this church league called Trinity.
Majors tells me that his end goal is to make it to the NBA. by way of one of the following 4 colleges.
UCLA, Ohio State is my dream school, of course, being born and raised in Toledo, Ohio. And then I also have Kentucky and the University of Duke. So, yeah.
But what team?
My favorite player of all time, LeBron James, is currently on the Lakers. So honestly, I'll go with the Lakers, the Cavaliers, or the Miami Heat. So, yeah.
And Major's coach tells me that his work ethic is what's going to get him there.
A very humble kid, laid back, and he's just a workhorse. That's it. Great player.
He's a beast in the classroom, and then he carries it over onto the court. He's an all-around player. He looks to give good looks to his teammates. He finishes around the basket.
I think I've learned from CJ, like, hard work is key. I mean, I feel like that does separate him from a lot of people, how much he works.
And Coach Fleming tells me that CJ is open to offers, so he says any colleges or universities should reach out to him. But for now, reporting here at Maumee Valley Country Day School, I'm Jaden Jefferson. And that's Saturday's news. Thanks to all my guests, and have a wonderful weekend.